Welcome back. And the Me Too movement continues to be a fire that burns across the nation. Charlie Rose, the latest as of right now. By the time we air, goodness knows who else. But there's also a local angle to this. We've got Mayor Kinney calling on Sheriff Joel Williams to step down amid allegations. There's talk that maybe Roger LeMay's decision not to go on for a third term as the head of the NPR board, though he says this is not the reason, might have to do with some allegations. The former head of Drexel Neurology has issues in 3 states with women saying he behaved inappropriately. A local company owner, Nate Mell, who owns a ceramics company, Fat and Felt, now has employees fleeing and a host of allegations. It is coming in so thick, so fast and furious. How are we actually to look at all of these different things and begin to come up with a way of deciding how to analyze them, how to react, what do we expect from people? Is the across the board answer, you gotta go? Is an apology enough? Is some sort of restitution enough? Like, it's time now to start figuring out, what do we do?
This is a really dangerous and messy time. The litany of examples you just ran down. For example, in the Roger LeMay case, I've done a little bit reporting. There's nothing there. There was no complaint. There was no accusation. That is just wild rumor. And now a guy who's stepping down was planning to step down. It's like tainted. So what I call for is a little bit of restraint amongst my brethren in the media to actually get your ducks in a row on a story. And this is one place where maybe you don't have to be first, because the rush to be first can take some people down unfairly. So I think that's one thing. The other thing is, it's not just media. I wish the mayor hadn't called for Joel Williams to resign. I wish he'd called for an investigation, for the Inspector General to investigate, because that's like Al Franken said, investigate me. I think that's the prudent thing at the beginning to do.
I mean, Harvey Weinstein, you looked at him, you thought, well, Hollywood, I'm not surprised. Louis C.K. was part of his act, some of these things.
Right.
But Charlie Rose, I'm having a hard time with Charlie Rose. Yeah,
I mean, the stories are
just kind of awful and surprising, and just walking around with staff, people totally naked.
I think we're going through some stages here, and I don't think that we need to try to short circuit those stages. The fact that we are finally listening to women and hearing women's voices, and not automatically saying, well, do you think that's true?
What were you wearing?
What
did you
have on? And did you send a kind of signal? What color was your lipstick? I mean, the fact that you have people saying automatically, I believe the women. I don't think that women put themselves out publicly in this way if they are not serious about it. I think we will get to the place of the punishment fitting the crime. Every situation is not the same, equal, or whatever. But right now, I think we have to allow people to be able to feel comfortable to step out, and then the investigations, the resignations, whatever is needed, needs to ultimately happen, because there has to ultimately get to a place where there is some action here. And I really am really excited to hear men actually say, I believe women, I hear you, we need to do something about this.
And what I like is, I think it's a movement. I think we're going to be reading about this in history books. Hopefully there's still books in 2 decades.
You'll be reading it in social media.
It's a women's social media, but that it's equal, excuse me if I'm being a little over the top, but to the women's movement, to the right to vote. I mean, this is something, way more is to come. Doesn't it come back to, though, training and HR? And I think now, Charmaine, give me your hand. I mean, do I shake your hand like this, like I shake Larry's and Brian's, or do I do this? Sorry. And is that appropriate? I don't know. And now we're thinking, as men especially, what we can do in the workplace.
Right, but
and that we have to
be,
we need to learn.
Right, but a lot of this also has to do with power. It has to
do
with,
it all does.
If I have more power, if I'm a man and I have more power than a lower level person in the office, and I have the ability to tell you what to do, and then I don't value women in the way that I should, then I ultimately take some actions that are completely inappropriate. So I think it's a bigger question about whether or not we know how to shake hands. It's more about, do you value me? Do you hear me? Do you think that I'm equal?
And that's, you know, go take it to the
Charmaine,
extreme.
I have to, Brian, I have to ask, do you worry about backlash? All you need is one case where they fall apart, because often women's stories, we get going and then anything that's an anchor seems to have more power than other people's stories. Do you worry that there could be a backlash because of one story that doesn't pan out?
Absolutely. I mean, and we've seen the same issue around race. People worry about raising questions around race because if there's one story that doesn't completely line up with the facts, does that give people the ability to say, oh, I don't know, why are you guys playing the race card? We'll have people ultimately say, why are you playing the woman's card? I think, though, there is enough there now that we'll be able to overcome that.
The speed of news, the how fast it is, all the outlets, the fact, I mean, it creates a certain amount of frenzy to get the next story, to get to the next story, and some of the things you're talking about with the Roger LeMay.
That's right, and I think we have had those backlashes. You had the Virginia rape case, and you had the Duke lacrosse case.
Right, there you go.
Right. Well, we'll take a short break. We could talk about this for quite some time, but we'll come back to Inside Stories.